I'm Maggie, 35, a tech executive who climbed from poverty to success through sheer determination. After years of saving, I finally purchased my dream oceanfront villa in Malibu for $5 million. I was just settling in when my phone rang. It was my sister Amanda, her voice dripping with entitlement. "We're on our way to you. There will be 11 of us. Prepare beds, towels, slippers, food. We'll be staying for 3 weeks. We'll be there in 30 minutes, so hurry up." I smiled, remembering our complicated history. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and subscribe to hear how I handled this situation that would change our relationship forever. Growing up in a small Minnesota town wasn't easy for our family. My parents worked multiple jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. Despite their financial struggles, they always seemed to find extra resources for Amanda, my sister, who is 4 years younger than me. While I understood a younger child sometimes needs more attention, the disparity in how we were treated was impossible to ignore. From the moment Amanda was born, she became the center of our family universe. When I needed new school supplies, I was told to be frugal and make do with what I had from the previous year. Meanwhile, Amanda received brand new everything from colorful backpacks to the latest trendy clothes. My parents justified this by saying that Amanda was more sensitive and needed extra support to thrive. By 16, I was working 2 part-time jobs after school. One at the local grocery store stocking shelves and another babysitting for our neighbors on weekends. Every dollar I earned went toward my college fund because my parents had made it clear that they couldn't help me. "You're so smart and capable, Maggie," my mom would say. "You'll figure it out." Meanwhile, they started a separate college fund for Amanda when she was still in elementary school. The pattern of Amanda taking my things without permission began when we were children. I would save up for weeks to buy a special bracelet or book only to find it in Amanda's room, often broken or damaged. When I complained to my parents, their response was always the same. "She looks up to you. Can't you share with your little sister?" One particular incident stands out in my memory. I had saved for 6 months to buy a beautiful silver necklace with a small sapphire pendant. I wore it exactly twice before it disappeared. When I found it in Amanda's jewelry box, the pendant was missing. She had removed it to put on one of her dolls, which she then lost. My parents suggested I should be flattered that Amanda admired my taste. No replacement was ever offered. College was a struggle. I attended the State University, taking a full course load while working 30 hours a week at a campus cafe and another 15 hours as a research assistant. I survived on ramen noodles and free coffee from my job, often going to bed hungry so I could afford textbooks. Amanda, however, was sent to a private college with a full parental financial support package. She joined a sorority, went on spring break trips to Cancun, and never worked a day during her 4 years of education. After graduation, I took an entry-level position at a tech startup in Minneapolis. The pay was terrible, but the potential for growth was there. I worked 80-hour weeks volunteering for every project, arriving first and leaving last. My boss noticed my dedication, and with "Taylor finished for me. Maggie, you've been letting Amanda walk all over you your entire life. This isn't just about this one incident. This is about setting a boundary that should have been set years ago." She was right, and deep down I knew it. "Okay," I said, feeling a strange mix of anxiety and relief. "I'm going to stand my ground." "Good. Now, let's think strategically about this. You don't want this turning into a scene that ends up on social media or with the police being called. Together, we formulated a plan. First, I called my security company. My villa was in a gated community with additional security features I had installed when I moved in. I updated them about the situation, making it clear that I was not expecting any guests and did not authorize entry for a group of 11 people arriving in 3 SUVs. Next, I texted my neighbor Harold, a retired judge who lived in the villa next door. Harold and I had bonded over our shared love of gardening, and he had become something of a mentor to me. I briefly explained the situation and asked if he would be willing to be a witness if things escalated. His response was immediate. "I'll be home all day. Call if you need me." I took out my journal and documented the entire phone call with Amanda while it was still fresh in my memory, including timestamps and as many verbatim quotes as I could remember. Then I set up my phone to record any future conversations. California is a two-party consent state for recordings, so I knew I would need to inform Amanda she was being recorded. But having an accurate record felt important. As I moved through these practical steps, I felt a heavy weight of guilt pressing down on me. Years of family conditioning had taught me that my role was to accommodate Amanda's needs and whims, to be the responsible one, the one who made sacrifices. Was I overreacting? Was I being selfish? I sat on my couch watching the waves crash against the shore and thought about the final straw incident from 5 years ago. Amanda had called me desperate because her car had broken down and she needed to get to a job interview. Could she borrow my car for just a few hours? Against my better judgment, I had agreed. 3 days later, after dozens of unreturned calls and texts, Amanda finally contacted me. My car had been in an accident. She hadn't been driving, though. She had loaned my car to a friend of hers who didn't have insurance. The damage was extensive, and since it was being driven by an unauthorized, uninsured driver, my insurance wouldn't cover it. The repair bill came to over $8,000, which Amanda promised to pay back in installments. I never saw a single dollar. When I brought it up at Christmas that year, my parents suggested I let it go for the sake of family harmony. That was the moment I decided to accept the job offer in San Francisco and move away from the toxic family dynamics that had defined my life. Now sitting in my beautiful oceanfront villa, I realized that I had physically moved away, but I had never truly escaped. I was still allowing Amanda's needs to take precedence over my own. I was still the obedient daughter and self-sacrificing sister. Even from hundreds of miles away. Not anymore. I stood up, feeling a new resolve solidify within me. This wasn't just about protecting my home from an invasion of uninvited guests. This was about reclaiming my life, my choices, and my right to set boundaries. I walked through my house, making sure all valuable or sentimental items were secured. I activated the security cameras that covered the entrance gate and front door. I put my important documents and jewelry in the safe. Not that I expected theft exactly, but Amanda's friends were strangers to me, and I had no idea what might happen when they were denied entry. The doorbell camera alerted me that someone was approaching the gate. Taking a deep breath, I went to face what was coming, feeling more prepared and determined than I had ever been in my dealings with my sister. Exactly 28 minutes after Amanda's call, 3 large black SUVs pulled up to my security gate. Through the camera feed on my phone, I watched as people began pouring out, stretching and taking selfies in front of my home. There were indeed 11 of them, including Amanda, all in their early 30s, dressed in expensive resort wear and oversized sunglasses. The amount of luggage they began unloading was staggering, as if they were moving in rather than visiting. I stepped outside and walked down my driveway toward the gate, stopping about 10 feet back. I wanted to have this conversation face to face, but I also wanted the security barrier between us during the initial confrontation. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, but I was determined to stand my ground. Amanda spotted me and waved enthusiastically. "Maggie, come open the gate. We've been driving forever and need to use the bathroom." I crossed my arms and stood my ground. "Amanda, I told you not to come. I'm not prepared to host 11 people for 3 weeks. You need to find other accommodations." Amanda's smile faltered, then returned with forced brightness. "Very funny. Now, seriously, open up. We're all exhausted and hungry." A tall man in designer swim trunks and a linen shirt approached the gate next to Amanda. "So, this is your famous sister, the tech executive." He looked me up and down as if assessing a purchase. "Your place is even more amazing than the pictures. Can't wait to see the view from that infinity pool." "I'm sorry, but there seems to be a misunderstanding," I said, clearly addressing the group rather than just Amanda. "I wasn't informed about this visit until 30 minutes ago. I'm not prepared to host guests, especially not 11 people for 3 weeks." There was an awkward silence as the group exchanged glances. A woman with sleek blonde hair stepped forward. "Amanda, you said your sister was expecting us, that she was excited to have us stay." Amanda shot the woman a warning look, then turned back to me with an exaggerated pout. "Maggie, stop being difficult. Everyone took time off work for this. We've been planning for months." "You've been planning." I wasn't included in those plans. I kept my voice calm but firm. "I have work commitments and I'm not available to host work. It's summer. Take a vacation like a normal person." Amanda laughed as if I'd said something ridiculous. "Besides, you don't need to entertain us. Just give us the keys and the alarm code. We'll take care of ourselves." "That's not going to happen," I replied. "This is my home, not a hotel." I noticed one of Amanda's friends had taken out her phone and was filming our conversation. She caught me looking and quickly said, "Just documenting the reunion." So sweet. But I knew better. She was planning to shame me online if this didn't go her way. The knowledge strengthened my resolve. I turned to address the entire group directly. "I want to be clear with everyone. Amanda did not have permission to invite you to my home. I was not informed of these plans. I cannot and will not host 11 people for 3 weeks. I'm sorry if you were misled, but you need to find alternative accommodations." A murmur went through the group. Some looked embarrassed, others annoyed. One man in the back called out, "Amanda said, this was your family's shared vacation home, that you guys co-owned it." Amanda's face flushed red. "Shut up, Rick," she hissed. "This is not a family vacation home," I stated clearly. "This is my primary residence which I purchased with my own money after saving for 15 years. Amanda has no ownership stake in this property." The atmosphere shifted perceptibly. More uncomfortable glances were exchanged. The woman filming lowered her phone slightly. Amanda's embarrassment quickly morphed into anger. "Why are you doing this to me?" she demanded, her voice rising. You're humiliating me in front of my friends after everything I've done. For you. What exactly have you done for me, Amanda? I asked quietly. I'm your sister. We're family, she sputtered. Family helps each other. Yes, they do. When asked. With reasonable requests. This isn't reasonable, Amanda. Amanda's face contorted with rage. She grabbed the security gate and rattled it. Open this gate right now, Maggie. I'm not joking around. Just then, the security guard from the community gatehouse arrived in his golf cart, alerted by the camera feed, showing a disturbance at my gate. Everything okay here, Miss Thompson? He asked me. No, Frank, it's not, I replied. These people are not invited guests. They need to leave the property. You can't do this, Amanda shrieked, her composure completely gone now. We drove 6 hours to get here. Where are we supposed to go? There are plenty of hotels in the area, I suggested. Or you could drive back home. The choice is yours, but you cannot stay here. Hotels in Malibu cost a fortune. One of her friends complained. We budgeted for a free stay. Another friend, looking increasingly uncomfortable, pulled out her phone. I'll start looking at Airbnbs nearby. Maybe we can find something. Amanda whirled on her. Put that away. We're staying here. My sister is just being dramatic. She'll give in. She always does. Those last 4 words hit me like a physical blow. She'll give in. She always does. That had been the dynamic my entire life, and Amanda was counting on it now. She truly believed that if she created enough of a scene, I would eventually relent rather than continue to face the discomfort of conflict. Not this time, Frank. I said to the security guard, would you please escort these people off the property? They were not invited and are not welcome at this time. Yes, ma'am, Frank replied. Turning to the group. I need you all to return to your vehicles and exit the community. This is ridiculous, Amanda shouted. I'm going to call Mom and Dad. They'll tell you how selfish you're being. Go ahead, I said, surprised at how calm I felt. I'm an adult, Amanda. Our parents don't get to decide who stays in my home. As Frank began firmly directing everyone back to their vehicles, I noticed the woman who had been filming had moved away from the group and was approaching the side gate that led to the beach access. She was clearly trying to find another way onto the property. Ma'am, Frank called out. That's private property as well. Please return to your vehicle. I watched as my sister's carefully orchestrated plan fell apart before her eyes. Her friends were confused and increasingly annoyed, realizing that the luxury beach vacation they had been promised was not going to materialize. Some were already on their phones, presumably searching for alternative accommodations. Others were casting accusatory glances at Amanda. The confrontation was painful but necessary. As I stood my ground watching Amanda's fury and desperation grow, I felt something unexpected, a profound sense of liberation. For the first time in our relationship, I was refusing to be manipulated. I was holding firm to my boundaries. And despite the discomfort of the moment, it felt right. As the reality of the situation sank in, Amanda changed tactics. Her angry expression melted into the pouty, pleading look that had worked so effectively throughout our childhood. Maggie, she said, her voice softening to a wounded tone. How can you do this to me? Remember when we were little and promised to always be there for each other? Remember the secret hideout we built in the backyard? How can you turn your back on all that history? The emotional manipulation was so transparent, it was almost laughable, but I recognized the strategy. Amanda had always been skilled at weaponizing nostalgia and shared memories to get her way. Our childhood memories don't entitle you to commandeer my home without permission. I replied steadily. I'm not turning my back on our relationship. I'm establishing a healthy boundary. Boundary? What's that even mean? We're sisters. There aren't supposed to be boundaries between family. She was getting desperate now, her voice rising and falling dramatically. I noticed that several of her friends were starting to look distinctly uncomfortable. A tall woman with auburn hair had moved back toward one of the SUVs and was leaning against it with her arms crossed, clearly distancing herself from the scene. A man with glasses was frowning as he looked between Amanda and me, his expression increasingly concerned. I think everyone's getting the real picture now, I said quietly. This isn't the first time you've made promises on my behalf without asking. Is it, Amanda? Remember when you told your college boyfriend he could stay at my apartment for a month without checking with me first? Or when you volunteered me to cater your friend's baby shower for 50 people? Or when you gave my email address to that multi-level marketing scheme your friend was running? Amanda's face flushed. That's different. Those were small favors. This is important. Important to whom? To you. What about what's important to me? Like my privacy. My home, my right to decide who stays in it. Just then, I noticed movement from next door. Harold, my retired judge neighbor, was walking along his driveway toward us, his expression concerned but determined. Everything all right over here, Maggie? He called. I heard raised voices. Just a family misunderstanding, Harold, I replied. My sister brought 10 friends to stay at my house for 3 weeks without asking me first. I've explained that's not possible. Harold raised his eyebrows. 3 weeks, 10 extra people without asking. Well, that seems rather presumptuous. Amanda glared at him. This is a private family matter. It doesn't concern you. Actually, Harold said mildly as Maggie's neighbor. A disturbance on her property does concern me. And as a retired judge, I can tell you that attempting to force your way onto someone's property after they've denied you entry could be considered trespassing. Amanda's eyes widened. Trespassing? I'm her sister. I can't trespass on family property. It's not family property. Harold corrected gently. It's Maggie's property. And yes, family members can indeed trespass if they enter or remain without permission from the legal owner. While this conversation was happening, I noticed movement at the side gate. 2 of Amanda's friends were attempting to squeeze through a small gap where the gate met the fence. The woman was holding her phone up, seemingly filming the property. Frank, I called to the security guard. There are people trying to enter through the side gate. Frank immediately headed in that direction. This entire property is private, he called out firmly. You need to return to the main driveway immediately. The 2 friends looked startled at being caught and quickly backed away, but the incident only reinforced my decision. That evening, my phone began buzzing with notifications. Amanda had apparently taken her grievances to social media, posting a tearful video about being turned away by my own sister when I had so much space I wasn't using. She tagged me in the post, clearly hoping her followers would rush to her defense and shame me publicly. But something Unexpected happened. Several of her friends from the trip commented with their versions of events. Jordan wrote a particularly powerful response describing how Amanda had misrepresented my home as family property and put everyone in an impossible situation. Others chimed in confirming this account and expressing their discomfort with how the situation had unfolded. What Amanda had intended as a public shaming backfired dramatically. Instead of rallying support, she was exposed further. Within hours, she had deleted the post. More surprisingly, I received several private messages from extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years. My cousin Eliza wrote, "I saw Amanda's post before she took it down. I just want you to know that some of us have seen through her act for years. It's about time someone stood up to her." My Aunt Patricia messaged, "Your uncle and I are proud of you for establishing healthy boundaries. It's long overdue." It seemed that Amanda's behavior hadn't been limited to her interactions with me. Others in our family had experienced similar treatment, but had also been silenced by the collective pressure to accommodate her demands and enable her deceptions. As the evening deepened into night, I sat on my deck, watching the moonlight play across the waves. For the first time since moving into this house, I felt truly at peace. The confrontation had been painful but necessary. A lifetime of unhealthy patterns had been challenged. And while the path forward wasn't entirely clear, I knew I would never go back to the way things had been. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in years, lulled by the sound of the waves and the knowledge that I had finally freed myself from the weight of always giving in. 6 months after the confrontation at my gate, I sat on my deck watching the sunset, reflecting on how much had changed. The aftermath of that day had been both challenging and transformative, rippling through every aspect of my family relationships and my sense of self. In the weeks following the incident, I had started seeing a therapist specializing in family dynamics. Dr. Larson helped me understand the roots of our dysfunctional family system, how I had been cast in the role of the responsible one, while Amanda was the special one who needed extra accommodation. We explored how these childhood roles had shaped our adult identities and relationships and how changing those patterns would inevitably create resistance. Families develop an equilibrium, Dr. Larson explained during one session. When one member changes their role, it forces everyone else to adjust. That adjustment is uncomfortable. So there's often tremendous pressure to return to the familiar pattern, even if that pattern is unhealthy. That pressure had been intense in the first few months. My parents called almost daily, alternating between guilt trips, appeals to family loyalty, and dire predictions about permanently damaging my relationship with Amanda. I maintained my boundary firmly but kindly, explaining that I loved my family but would no longer participate in unhealthy dynamics. My contact with Amanda was limited to brief text exchanges. She had initially vacillated between angry accusations and tearful apologies, neither of which acknowledged the real issue. I kept my responses simple and consistent. "I'm open to rebuilding our relationship on healthier terms when you're ready to respect my boundaries." To my surprise, it was my father who reached out first with what felt like genuine understanding. 3 months after the incident, he called and asked if we could speak privately. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said hesitantly, "about what you said regarding how differently we treated you and Amanda growing up. I never saw it that way before, but I've been remembering specific incidents and well, I think you might be right." He shared memories from our childhood that he now viewed through a different lens. How they had insisted I share my science fair winnings with Amanda when she spent hers, immediately teaching me that my achievements and efforts were Less important than her wants. How they had attended every one of Amanda's dance recital but missed my debate. Championships because you'll understand if we can't make it. How they had celebrated Amanda's C grades with dinners out while my agra grades were met with simple nods and expectations of continued performance. We thought we were doing the right thing, he admitted. Amanda seemed to need more support, and you seemed so capable on your own, but I see now that we taught her she didn't have to be responsible, and we taught you that your needs didn't matter as much. I'm sorry, Maggie. We failed you both in different ways. That conversation marked a turning point in my relationship with my father. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a start towards something more honest and balanced. My mother took longer to come around, still clinging to her view of family dynamics, where protecting Amanda from consequences was the priority. But even she had begun to ask questions about my life and experiences. That showed a new awareness. The most surprising development came from Amanda herself. After 4 months of minimal contact, she called me on a Sunday morning. Her voice lacked its usual dramatic flair, sounding instead subdued and thoughtful. Mom and Dad cut me off financially, she said without preamble. They said it's time I learned to support myself. How do you feel about that? I asked carefully. Terrified, angry. Relieved, maybe. I don't know. She paused. Jordan helped me get a job at her company, entry-level customer service. It's humbling, but it's a start. We talked for nearly an hour, the longest genuine conversation we'd had in years. Amanda didn't offer a direct apology for the villa incident, but she approached something adjacent to accountability. I think I've been living in a fantasy world, she admitted, pretending to have things I don't have, using other people to maintain the illusion. I don't want to be that person anymore. It wasn't a dramatic reconciliation, but it was a first step toward a different kind of relationship. We agreed to meet for coffee the following month when she would be in Los Angeles for a training seminar. Small steps, realistic expectations. As my family relationship slowly evolved, so did my relationship with my home. I had initially purchased the villa as a sanctuary, a private retreat from the world. After the confrontation, I found myself wanting to share it on my own terms with people who respected my boundaries. I hosted my first proper housewarming party 5 months after the incident. 20 friends who had supported me through my career journey, my therapy progress, and the family drama gathered to celebrate not just my home, but the new sense of ownership I felt over my life and choices. Taylor, who had encouraged me to stand firm from the beginning, raised a toast that brought tears to my eyes. To Maggie, who built this beautiful home with 15 years of hard work, and who had the courage to protect it when it mattered, may this space always be filled with joy, peace, and only the guests you actually invite. The laughter that followed was healing, transforming what had been a painful memory into something that could be viewed with humor and pride. Learning to enjoy my success without guilt was perhaps the most profound change. 4 years, I had downplayed my achievements, feeling somehow that my success cast a shadow on Amanda's struggles. Dr. Larson helped me see that this zero-sum thinking was part of the unhealthy family dynamic. Your success doesn't cause her failures, and minimizing your accomplishments doesn't elevate hers. She pointed out. You can celebrate your achievements while still having compassion for her challenges. This shift in perspective allowed me to finally take full pleasure in the life I had built. I began to view my oceanfront villa not as something I needed to justify or defend, but simply as the well-earned fruit of my labor. It became truly mine in a way it hadn't been before. A sanctuary not just from the outside world, but from the internal voices of doubt and guilt that had followed me for decades. The freedom that came from standing up for myself extended beyond my family relationships. I found myself setting clearer boundaries at work with friends, even with service providers. I became more comfortable expressing my needs and preferences, no longer feeling that my role was to accommodate everyone else at my own expense. As I watched the final rays of sun sink below the horizon, I reflected on the most important lesson I had learned. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for healthy relationships. By allowing Amanda to continue her pattern of entitled behavior, I wasn't helping her. I was enabling a dynamic that limited her growth and damaged our connection. Real love, I had come to understand, sometimes means saying no. It means holding others accountable for their actions and allowing them to experience the natural consequences of their choices. It means refusing to participate in deceptions even when they're wrapped in the language of family loyalty. The road ahead with my family would likely have more bumps and challenges. Patterns established over decades don't change overnight. But for the first time, I felt equipped to navigate those challenges without sacrificing my own well-being in the process. I hope my story resonates with those of you who might be struggling with similar family dynamics. Remember that you deserve respect, that your needs matter, and that setting healthy boundaries is an act of self-care that ultimately benefits everyone involved. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with a family member? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating complicated family relationships. Thank you for listening, and I wish you courage and strength on your own journey toward healthier relationships and self-respect.